Scott, I'm not sure if you know this, but The Last of Us is absolutely huge and people really like it.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, The Last of Us Season 2 got its newest trailer.
Sickening.
And by all accounts, it has broken pretty much every viewership record for a pre-release bit of marketing in HBO Max history. This was reported by The Wrap the other day, who said that The Last of Us Season 2's trailer has been watched 150 million times within the space of 3 days.
That was all you.
That's mostly me. Yeah, I can probably account for at least 100 million of those views, which is just absolutely outrageous. If you go on YouTube right now, the trailer on the official Max channel, I think it's sitting at 24 million views.
Right.
And to just put this into context and why I think it's worth talking about, because we did kind of analyze the trailer earlier on this week, is that at this moment in time, we're getting to a situation where The Last of Us TV show is arguably more popular and more widespread than the Last of Us game series. And just to put some numbers into perspective...
Give me the data.
Or if you go on YouTube again, the Season 2 trailer has that 24 million view count that I said. The announcement trailer for The Last of Us Part 2 from 2016, that's been up 9 years, that's got 10 million views. And the gameplay reveal that came a few years later, I think it was 2018, that's got 20 million views.
Right.
So as far as I could see, no The Last of Us Part 2 game trailer came close to achieving what The Last of Us Season 2 trailer did in 3 days over the course of almost 10 years.
And there's obviously, like,
mad.
you can argue the momentum built over time. You can argue the controversy around Last of Us 2, the game factored into, like, okay, what the hell does Season 2 of this show even look like? And how, what are we going to see in that trailer? Are they going to do the thing? And that kind of stuff. But still, the raw numbers, the raw eyeballs on this thing, I think I disagree with you. I feel like I have a whole thing with the Last of Us TV show where I feel like it's become, I've mentioned this so much, but I feel like it's the new zombie show. Yeah. And I think there's such a huge audience of people just waiting for a zombie show, which to me, that proves it. Like, you've got the Walking Dead fans are in there and the Last of Us fans, and maybe all of the sort of lapsed Zack Snyder fans that maybe didn't love his last of the Dead movie. Like, you're getting everyone, because there's not an overarching zombie show. There's not there's not a big head turning piece of zombie media, whether it's a game, like obviously Back 4 Blood bombed in the gaming space. And I just feel like you've got a whole bunch of people ironically ravenous and waiting for something in a zombie-like style who are now being served the perfect thing.
Very good. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
I think part of it is the zombie thing, and I think you could just look at the success of genre shows generally. When they hit big, they hit big. Look at the viewing figures for Stranger Things or something like Squid Game, a dystopian near future thing. Obviously, you mentioned The Last of Us, The Walking Dead back in the day, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, hitting these massive viewing figures. But I think it's just interesting that The Last of Us has become essentially HBO's biggest show and could be their biggest show ever. Like, you look at the sales of the games, and the last time this was properly documented, the franchise as a whole had sold 37 million copies of the games. Okay. The first season of the show has averaged nearly 32 million viewers per episode. That's mad. That's mad. Well, that we're in this situation.
That was like all of our parents watching it, because everyone had that conversation where it's almost you're like a little node in the middle, like the player, and then all the wider family who all came in to talk about it. I feel like the buzz went so much wider.
Yeah, it did. And it's always funny when I talk to my family, because they had no interest in The Last of Us when I was playing it, but then all watched the show. And my brother, I mentioned this in the podcast before, my brother went through the game for the first time, the first one, and really loved it, and then watched the show and really loved that as well. But now is in a weird predicament where he's like, well, the show's about to debut at Season 2, and that's only going to be part of the game, so do I wait and watch the show as it comes out, or do I get the full story now and then wait a few years to wait for the show itself to catch up? I know they are different in many ways, but I mean, the bones are pretty damn identical, and it looks like Season 2 isn't going to deviate too much from Part 2 of the game, judging on the footage that we've seen in the trailer.
No, but I think they'll be rejigging the order of the scenes in a little way. Like, I don't think you'll do all of Ellie's stuff and then cut and then do all of Abby's stuff and then rejoin. Maybe they will, but you can only show one thing at a time kind of thing. So I don't know. I wonder about that stuff.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I don't know. I thought the same as you until I saw this recent trailer, and I just think you've got 9 episodes. You're showing us all this now. If you played the game, you know where these things come in the story. I wonder if they do just do the character split. I wonder if they do just do Ellie's perspective as season 2, and then we get Abby's perspective as season 3, and maybe
Possibly.
it all comes together in a shortened season 4. Just I know it's ambitious.
The thing is, if you do a whole season of, because there's enough Ellie and Joel stuff from later in the game that you can actually move around. They're just flashbacks. They can happen, kind of whenever, to a degree. It's based on what people thinking of him, whatever it is. But I wonder if, because it's that whole thing of like, does this version of this story, these series of events, does this go down better with people than Last of Us 2 did? Just because of we get to spend more time with him before things happen. Do you rejig that, or do you shock people up front, do that scene, and you got the rest of the season without him and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but I'm also curious. You mentioned your brother, but I'm curious about people who are watching The Last of Us and witness these events. Do they care as much? Do they prefer? And then if they play the game, do they prefer it to the way it's handled in the game? Like, that's fascinating. Like, I can't think of any other times in adaptation history, mainstream adaptation history, where something so controversial has been handled twice within like a 5-year period.
Yeah.
Markedly differently, 2 different mediums, 2 different audiences, and have that conversation to be like, well, in our version it was all right. Well, in our version it was like this. Like, we've never had that in entertainment history.
I think, oh man, it's about 4 years ago on this podcast, I made the outrageous claim, maybe at the time, I don't know, that what happens in season 2 is not going to be anywhere near as controversial as it was in the games. And I stand by that. I just think they're very different mediums with very different audiences. When that happened in the game, it felt like we'd never experienced that before. It felt like the craziest thing ever. But I think if you're more of a TV watcher, and especially if you're watching stuff on HBO, that kind of narrative is more standardized, I think. So don't get me wrong, there'll definitely be some backlash. There'll definitely be some controversy. I just can't personally imagine it being as controversial as the games.
No.
Even if it's just from a time perspective, like you said, people who are watching the TV show have had 2 years with these characters. By the time we got The Last of Us Part 2, we had 7 full years with these characters waiting for the next story. We had 4 full years waiting for that second game to be in our hands, right? I think in that way, there are maybe different expectations at a slightly different context. Not to say that gamers are, dumb or anything, and they can't handle that in their games. Just, it's rarer than it is in TV.
The rollout is completely different. Like, Last of Us was the game that should never have had a sequel in terms of the conversation for the longest time. It was always like, where you can't possibly go anywhere. It's the perfect ending. I would obviously still say that. But that was the conversation for the longest time. And then I remember Nolan North leaked it, said he was working on it at a panel show in like 2017 or 16 or something. Would have been earlier than the first trailer. And it was like, oh my God, they're doing it. You better have something perfect. And then when it finally came out and then the scene happens and whatever, and it was like, oh, you ruined it. And then the whole run up and everything else, and people into their entire personality to hate that thing.
Yeah.
But like you said, the rollout was so different. Whereas because all that stuff happened and because there's more source material, and even if you're not paying any attention, but the barest amount of attention, there are 2 Last of Us games.
Yes.
So you can assume there will be at least 2 Last of Us seasons.
Yeah.
So when Last of Us 1 finishes, you kind of know there's a little bit of something else. So it's like, it does change the mentality going into it.
Totally. And I think as well, I love The Last of Us TV show.
Yes.
But you also don't have that element that the game had where, like you mentioned, the game, even in 2013, is considered one of the greatest of all time. It's
totally.
a medium changer, it has this unbelievable status. And no matter how good the TV show is, it's a pretty good TV show in a sea of pretty good TV shows.
Yeah.
Like, no one's looking at it, I don't think, and saying, like, this is the greatest TV show of all time.
No.
What the hell are they going to do? They better not mess it up. It's just like, yeah, okay.
I'll take more of that.
I'll watch this until the next season of Stranger Things comes out, or the next season of whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I hope by the end of it, and if it's finished, it is up alongside The Sopranos or Better Call Saul or Mad Men or whatever. But I don't think it's there within the cultural sort of mindset yet. Just way too early to say it. Obviously, it's huge. Obviously, people love it. But yeah, I think it's
Like that sort of thing with like certain episodes of Game of Thrones in the later seasons, and some of the early seasons had them too. But certain episodes where it's like that was masterful.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel. I was going to say the Bill and Frank episode is masterful in season 1, but like there's not that many of those instances. Like I thought like Tessa's death was handled really badly or whatever, cinematography wise, acting wise, things like that. Yeah, but the production budget seems a lot higher for season 2 because season 1 did get that big audience, and even in the trailer they're showcasing like bigger set piece moments and things that aren't in the game. So yeah, like even that turns the heads. The whole thing with there's like in the trailer of like the Jackson being like besieged by all the walkers. That is so Walking Dead with the governor in season 4 and like reminiscent of.
Yeah.
Like, and I wonder how much that is intentional. Like I said, I can't get away from the association with other major zombie media. Season 4 Walking Dead was forever ago. But like that idea of going like, this is a big high stakes zombie thing.
Yeah.
And them sort of like playing their cards very effectively.
It kind of reminded me more of, I think you said this earlier in the week, maybe, the bits in Game of Thrones where they're fighting the undead. I've forgotten what they're called, the Night King and
the
stuff.
White
you know what
Walkers.
I mean? The White Walkers, when they're getting sieged by those, it reminded me a little bit of the scale of that in the latest series.
The Long Dark episode, obviously one of the most iconic episodes in Thrones.
And I wonder how much of that is them over-correcting or trying to correct the criticisms that the zombies weren't all that menacing in the first series. They were menacing when they showed up, but there were long stretches without them. It was mainly a character drama. And they said before they started shooting season 2 or even writing season 2 that, don't worry, there's going to be much more action in the second season, which they are definitely front-loading in this trailer for sure.
Yeah, there's some way better just shots, just general composition stuff, like the bit where Tommy is like flamethrowing one of the bloaters.
Yeah.
That, considering that will be a CG creature, still looks a lot more believable. It's shot a lot better. Like, yeah, there's some bits in season 1 that I thought were quite ropey with the CG. There's a whole bit where they all surge and come out the ground. It's towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
JB loved that bit.
I was about to point that out. It was a really good action scene. I will say, the CG was a bit ropey, but that's
what I mean. It's just the CG stuff. But yeah, it seems like season 2 for the show, like season 1 was a bit of a test bed, and it's interesting to see how much they're just going for it, and the audience is responding. Like, yeah, this is maybe the biggest show of the year.
Yeah,
it definitely is in terms of the trailer stuff. And I'll be amazed if they can top it. But I'm so curious how you do adapt that whole game, like how many seasons this ends up being. If they look at these numbers and then go, okay, whatever plans we had for season 3, we are extending them all the way out.
Maybe, yeah, I know.
Season 3, season 4, season 5.
I thought, yeah, again, just looking at what's been released in the trailers so far, I don't know anything about any set leaks that might have happened or anything. I'm literally just going off what I know about the game and what's in this trailer. They are covering more of the story than I expected them to in this season because, like you said, there is so much opportunity to flesh out what happens in the game. But it feels like we're going to be making a lot of tracks across these 9 episodes, and it makes me wonder, is there only one more season in this after season 2, or do we go for 2, or do they find other ways to stretch it out? I will say, and I said this years ago as well, the inciting incident of The Last of Us Part 2 does not happen any later than episode 2 of season 2.
You want to put a bet on this?
I want to put a pasty bet on it. I owe you a Greg's. If it happens any later than the end of episode 2, I'll owe you a sausage roll.
Oh, we should bet some sort of golf-based biscuit. And,
we should, you're right.
Yeah, some sort of a club head.
A club? You know, a mint club? I'll bet you a mint club. A mint club that happens at the end of episode 2.
That is a perfect thing to bet for this particular thing, and I apologize for the various hints dancing around whatever the hell we're talking about if you don't already know.